listen, having met with quite a few sellers, especially over the last couple of days, weeks, months, I've met with lots and lots of sellers. I have actually lots of listings coming soon. But the crazy thing is, lots of these sellers are people who are moving because they are buying other places. And so lots of times they have questions for me about dealing with other realtors. A lot of times these people are moving out of state, or they're moving far away where I don't work. So they're dealing with another realtor on the buy side, which is always to me quite interesting. Remember this very carefully. If you are the buyer, the contract, lots of realtors get into the habit, I guess you would say, of putting the same information into purchase agreements over and over and over again. The purchase agreement is absolutely an agreement not between you and the realtor. It's an agreement between you and the person whose home you are trying to buy. So remember that contract, your number one goal, if you find a house that you love and you want to buy, the number one goal should be to get it under contract. And you'll figure out everything else during your due diligence period. So make sure that the realtor that you are dealing with gives you plenty of due diligence days so that you can then decide for sure if you really want to buy that house. I see people day after day after day after day, and lots of times it's not even them, it's their realtor, who overthinks everything, never gets the house under contract, and by the time they finally get it under contract, it's already pending with someone else. So remember this. The most important thing, if you are a buyer, is to get it under contract and figure out every single thing else during your due diligence period. For example, I'm telling you, I have a listing. I'm very heavy on the listing side, which means I represent lots more sellers than buyers. And that's a huge advantage on my part because I get to see how their realtor handles things. And I tell you, I see this over and over and over again, where a house hits the market and I know that it's not going to last long. It's only going to last a few days, maybe a few weeks. And I'll get texts from other realtors that say things like this. How does the roof? How does the air conditioner? Is it in a flood zone? When is the sewer system? When is the last time the sewer system been pumped out? Listen, if your clients love the house, all of that other crap you're going to find out during your due diligence and your inspection period. All of that other stuff is irrelevant until you get it under contract. Because if you waste too much time asking question after question after question after question, lots of times it goes pending before you ever even get it under contract. And I see some people say, man, I've been looking at a house for months and I've been thinking about it. Well, why are you thinking about it? It's probably under contract by the time you finish thinking about it. So if you find a house that's in your budget and you believe it could be the house for you, get it under contract. And make sure you have enough due diligence and inspection days in your contract so that if something comes up, let's say you do some research and you find out that it flooded and you just don't want to deal with that, you cancel the contract. No questions asked. You don't have to give a reason. Listen, lots of times you can submit an offer without a deposit because a deposit is not mandated in the state of Louisiana. So as a listing agent, I don't even like dealing with deposits. So if you're going to submit an offer on one of my properties, don't even send a deposit. It's not important. Listen, a $500 deposit on a $300,000 house isn't even worth the paper it's printed on. Who cares? So a deposit is not mandatory in the state of Louisiana. So if you see a house hit the market and you are a buyer, you need one of two things to submit an offer. A pre-approval letter for the price you're offering, or proof of funds if you're a cash buyer. But if you waste too much time, or your realtor wastes too much time, it could very well go under contract before you even have the time to get it under contract. Okay, number two, Let's say you see a house hit the market, your realtor piddled around, or you piddled around, you didn't have proof of funds, or you didn't have a pre-approval letter. It goes under contract before you even have a chance to submit an offer. What can you do then? There are some things you can do. You can tell your realtor, and if it's me you're dealing with, you can tell me, listen, I love that house. I have a pre-approval letter, or I have proof of funds. I want that house. Submit a backup offer for me on that house. Submit a backup offer, because if that other house falls out of contract, and listen, that happens every day, your offer is next in line. Your offer is absolutely next in line. So if you are devastated because you had your heart set on this house and it goes under contract, submit a backup offer, because lots and lots and lots of times a seller is going to have a buyer who goes through inspections, and maybe the buyer is real nitpicky, or their realtor doesn't have any sense and they submit a long litany of things they want fixed on the house. That seller knows that they have a backup offer. They can say no to that buyer. I'm not fixing any of that, or I'm not doing a price reduction, knowing that if that buyer cancels, the backup offer comes in. You're waiting to see if it falls out of contract so that your offer is accepted. In the meantime, your realtor is showing you other houses as they hit the market, and you find another house that you like just as much, or you say, well, if that other house never comes to fruition, I want to have a backup plan. Submit an offer. Submit an offer. And if your offer is accepted on that second house, cancel your backup offer. It's a win-win. You have nothing to lose. Nothing to lose at all. And if for some reason your realtor just demanded that you submit a deposit with your backup offer, you get your deposit back. As long as you canceled it before it was accepted, or even during your due diligence period, you get your deposit back, okay? So let's say house number 2. You're in contract with house number 2. For some reason, your realtor wanted you to submit a deposit. Remember, remind your realtor, because lots of realtors don't even know this, that in the state of Louisiana, a deposit is not mandatory. You do not have to submit a deposit. Now, sometimes a seller wants a deposit. Listen, still, the deposits that they ask for in Louisiana are silly. They're minute. They're insignificant. In my opinion, I think they're silly. Now, if they were like 10% or 20% of the sale price and they held more weight, maybe so, but around here they just don't. I mean, I've seen contracts with $100 as a deposit on a $250,000 house. That's silly. And that's not going to prevent a buyer from canceling a contract. It's not going to. All right? Another thing I see a lot of people have a problem with is that they feel like once they go under contract, they have to buy that house. Absolutely the furthest thing from the truth. Have a realtor to represent you that explains all these things to you. You submit an offer on a house, okay? You should have a substantial amount of due diligence days that gives you time to have it inspected, gives you time to research it, gives you time to do all your due diligence, just anything that you want to do to find out, do I really, really, truly want to buy this house? Let's say that you have 10 days of due diligence, and on day 5, another house hits the market that you feel like, oh my God, that is actually the house that I really, really, really want. You still have 5 days of due diligence left on that other house. All your realtor has to do is cancel the contract. Again, you do not have to give a reason at all. You can cancel for any reason during your due diligence period, and you submit an offer on the other house. Now, I would say, don't cancel the other one until your other offer gets accepted. Make sure your other offer is accepted and you're buying that other house before you cancel the other one, okay? So those are just some important things to remember. Another thing I hear people say all the time is the interest rates are too high. Well, okay, the interest rates are average. If you go back and look at the interest rates in the 80s, they were in the teens and the upper 20s and in the lower 20s. So they're average right now. A lot of people feel like they're high because during COVID, they were at a ridiculous all-time low level, which is never going to happen again. But if you are currently renting, or if you have been renting for a substantial amount of time, the interest rates are irrelevant because you're paying 100% interest on something you never own. So 100% interest on something you will never own. So if the interest rates are even 40% interest, it's still better than what you're paying. Because if you're paying interest on a house that you own in 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, you're going to sell it and get all your money back if you took care of it. The price of real estate is not going down. I've been in this business for 5 years, and I have seen just in the 5 years that I've gotten into real estate, the price of land, houses, construction, everything has skyrocketed. The price of everything in general has skyrocketed. Look at the price of milk from 5 years ago as opposed to now. It's not even recognizable. The prices, the inflation, everything's going up. So I hear people say over and over again, don't wait to buy. Buy and wait. Which that means if you buy a house today and you take very good care of it and it's in a decent neighborhood, in 3, 4, 5, 6 years, you're not going to recognize the price that you could sell that place for. You will not recognize it. So my son just graduated from college in May. He has a job, a very good job, making very good money. He's renting. He has a 3-bedroom house in Lake Charles with 2 other guys. So because they're splitting the rent 3 ways, his rent is very low. I think it's like $500 or $600 with everything. But still, it's $500 or $600 that he's throwing away every single month on a house that he will never, ever, ever own. So what about preach to him, preach to him, preach to him? In about 6 to 8 months, he has in his head that he wants to save 20 to 30 to 40% down on a house, which listen, he's a different child altogether. But if you're a first-time home buyer, he actually, because of the amount he makes per year, could qualify for 100% financing. And if he has a good realtor, which he will because I'm going to represent him, he's not going to pay a penny in closing costs. He's not going to pay a penny in closing costs because I'm going to make sure in his contract that the sellers pay his closing costs. So, could he buy a house today? Absolutely, 1,000% he could buy a house today. He's hard-headed. He wants to save 20 to 30 to 40% down before he buys a house. That's what he's going to do. But a first-time home buyer can buy a house with no money down if your credit is not even excellent, if it's decent. Now, if your credit's not so decent, your debt to income ratio is kind of high, you could always qualify for an FHA loan, which again, remember, that's only 3.5% down. 3.5% down. And there are all kinds of other loans. VA is 100%, RD USDA, that's the 100% one. Conventional, if you're a first-time home buyer, that's 3% down. It's not 20. Remember, that's a huge misconception amongst people, is that you need 20% down to buy a house. Absolutely the furthest thing from the truth. If you want to put that down, you can. You absolutely do not have to. Banks require 20% down. Mortgage brokers do not. So when and if you are ready to buy, give me a call or message me. I have a list of mortgage brokers that are amazing. They have the best rates, the best terms, the least amount of fees. I have a list of about 10 people that are just phenomenal. You won't put 20% down unless you want to. You can put down as much as you want to, but the most you should ever have to put down, if you're not a first-time home buyer, is 5%, and that's on a conventional loan, which is an amazing type of loan. Y'all remember this: there are no stupid questions. If you have a question, call a realtor who you know, like, and trust. Ask all your questions. If you feel like they're just not as smart as I thought they were, or they're just not very versed in real estate, and you want to talk to me, I would love to have a conversation with you. I absolutely live, breathe real estate. I love it. I love dealing with sellers. I love dealing with buyers. I love dealing with both sides. I love all the things. I absolutely love negotiating. So if you are a buyer and you don't want the headache of trying to figure out the contract and all the legalities.
In 2 miles, take exit 1038 for US 167 South toward US 90 Morgan City.
Love to do it. Y'all enjoy this gorgeous weather. Take care, and if there's anything I can help you with real estate related, please do not hesitate to reach out. Y'all have a great one.